So welcome back to the session on respiratory system, and here we will be discussing about the respiratory organ, the lungs. Okay, so we have already seen the respiratory tract and till what do you say, the bronchus. Okay, this is the primary bronchus. Okay, now lungs, when we see lungs of pigeon, they are bright red, small, compact, slightly distensible, spongy, highly vascular organ, and they differ from the lungs of other vertebrates in the fact that they don't store air. Okay, the lungs, they don't store air. You can see the air sacs over here, isn't it? And it is just actually the air passes through the lungs to various air sacs, from anterior sacs to posterior or otherwise. So it is never an organ meant for storing air. Okay. The lungs, they lie in the pleural cavity or the thoracic cavity. Okay, the pleural cavity, and this pleural cavity, it is separated from the abdominal cavity by way of a septum, an oblique septum. And here the bronchus entering, you can see each of the primary bronchus enters the lungs, and it is actually from the anteroventral side. Okay, these bronchus, the bronchi, they does not branch as soon as they get inside. Okay, here you can see. So this part actually, if you draw the yeah, okay. So this is the part inside the lungs. Okay, this is the part inside the lungs. Fine. So you can see here there's a primary bronchus. Primary bronchus, in the sense, the one which actually rises from the branching of posterior of the trachea. Okay, so this is the primary bronchus. You can see here this one. Okay, so this is the trachea. So here the two primary bronchi. Fine. The primary bronchi enters inside the lungs. Okay, so this is the lungs, as we have already mentioned. As soon as it enters the lungs, it doesn't divide. Just unlike as in the case of humans or any other vertebrates, it doesn't divide. Instead, they move towards the posterior end. Okay, and on its way, it gives off branches. Right, and this branch inside the lungs, it is known as the mesobronchus. You can see here mesobronchus. Okay, so what happens is the primary bronchus, inside the lung, it loses its cartilaginous wings and continue to move continue up to the posterior end, and it is known as the mesobronchus. Okay, the mesobronchus gives off branches to air sacs and also gives off several secondary bronchi, which may be distinguished as dorsal, ventral, and lateral according to their position. Here you can see the mesobronchus. Okay, so this one is the mesobronchus. Okay, it gives off branches. Right, you can see here the ventrobronchi, right, this branch, the dorsobronchi, and along with that they have the lateral bronchi as well. Okay, these are the secondary bronchi. Okay, the secondary bronchi, especially the dorsal and ventral, then branch into the parabronchi. Here you can see it. Here this one it shows clearly. Okay, so so this is the primary bronchi. This is the mesobronchi. Mesobronchi gives off dorsobronchi and ventrobronchi. These are the secondary bronchi. Okay, and this dorso and ventrobronchi further gives off branches. It is known as the parabronchi, which is considered to be the tertiary bronchi. Okay, so the primary bronchi, once it is inside, which is known as the mesobronchus, which is a secondary bronchi. Okay, the bronchus. Okay, the second, actually primary bronchi, once it is inside the lungs, it is mesobronchus. Mesobronchus gives off branches, the dorsal, ventral, and lateral. These are the secondary bronchi. Okay, now the ventrobronchi and dorsobronchi, they give off branches which are known as the parabronchi. This is the tertiary bronchi. Okay, primary bronchi, the secondary bronchi, and the tertiary bronchi. Fine. Now the parabronchi form an intricate system of branching and anastomosing thin-walled air capillaries. They form loops and also join the recurrent bronchi. So I hope this is to some extent it is clear. Okay. Now the lung parenchyma has hexagonal areas. Each has a central parabronchus surrounded by a system of air capillaries and interlacing blood capillaries. So you can see that the parabronchi and air capillaries, they do not end blindly. So there is no dead space in the lungs. Okay. So each air capillary opens by both ends into a parabronchus. So alveoli are not found in the lungs. Okay, unlike the alveolus in the human lungs, we cannot find such kind of alveoli in the bird lungs. Okay. Now, the air capillaries are lined with vascular respiratory membrane and they come in contact with the blood capillaries for an exchange of gases. In birds, thus the branches do not have blind endings in alveoli and they form an interconnecting system of bronchi, parabronchi and air capillaries forming complete air circuits in which air circulates. Okay, it is unlike what we can see in the case of the human or the in general mammalian lung. Okay, so can we just repeat once again then, right? So we have the trachea dividing into two primary bronchi. Okay, each of the primary bronchi enters the lungs. Once it is inside the lungs, it gives actually it, what you call loses all its cartilaginous supporting wings, and this particular branch entering the lungs, it is known as the mesobronchus. It extends till the posterior end of the lungs, right? On its way, you can see that the mesobronchus, each of the mesobronchus, it gives off secondary bronchi. Okay, secondary bronchi, they are ventrobronchi, dosobronchi, as well as the lateral one, based upon its position. Okay, ventrobronchi and dosobronchi, secondary bronchi, they give off branches which are referred as the parabronchi. They are the tertiary bronchi. Okay, and the what you call the air capillaries plus the what you call parabronchi together they form the complete air circuit. Okay, so nowhere inside the lungs of pigeon we can find tubes or bronchioles ending blindly. So they are all continuous and air always circulates through these. Okay, now we can see that the parabronchi, they also give off smaller branches. We can refer it as the air capillaries. Okay, so it forms a loop and joins the recurrent bronchi. So here you can see the parabronchi, they gives off smaller branches. Okay, so they give off small branches. The further it branches again, and then it joins together on this side and joins. So it is like a loop. Okay, that is what is referred here, right? So the parabronchi form an intricate system of branching and anastomosing. Anastomosing in the sense branching, rebranching and forming a network-like structure. Okay, it forms thin-walled air capillaries and they form loops between. Okay, so that is how it is. Fine. I hope it is clear. Right. So this is regarding the structure of lungs, and regarding the air sacs. We'll just mention the different types of air sacs, its position, and then in the next coming video, we'll see how the respiration is brought about. Okay. Around the lungs, you can see there are plenty of air sacs, isn't it? Right? So around the lungs and connected with the ends of main branchial branches, or specifically bronchial branches, there are large thin-walled membranous non-muscular and non-vascular air sacs. So air sacs are non-vascular. There are no blood capillaries over them or connected with them. Okay, they are non-muscular and hence they are not distensible. I mean, they cannot, but they can, since they are thin-walled and membranous, they can fill up with air. Okay, these are what is referred as the air sacs. Okay, now they lie among the viscera and even extend into some of the larger bones, especially this part and all. You can see there is a bone over here. Okay, this is one air sac. It is known as the humeral air sac. You can see it extends into the bone. Okay, so there are certain air sacs which extend into some of the larger bones. So their total volume is several times that of the lungs. When you take the volume enclosed within the different air sacs, we can see that the total volume exceeds the volume of both the lungs. Okay. They arise from the secondary bronchi, except for the abdominal air sac, which arise at the posterior end of the mesobronchus. Okay, that is, the air sacs usually arise from the secondary bronchi. Secondary bronchi in the sense that is the dorsal and the ventral bronchi, isn't it? Right? While the abdominal air sac, except for the abdominal air sac, the abdominal air sac, on the other hand, it arises from the posterior end of the mesobronchus. Okay, to be clear, over here you can see. Right? These are the air sacs, cervical, clavicular, anterior thoracic. All these air sacs, it arises from the secondary, bronchi. You can see either from ventrobronchi or dorsobronchi. But what about this one, the abdominal? It is actually continuation, somewhat like a continuation of the mesobronchus. So this is the only air sac which arises from the mesobronchus. The rest of the air sac, it arises from the secondary bronchi. Okay. Then openings of the bronchi into air sacs, it is known as the ostia, except the cervical air sac. Okay, cervical air sac, it is this one. Okay, along the neck region. So, except for the cervical air sac, we can see that all the air sacs rejoin the bronchi through recurrent bronchi, or it is referred as sacobronchi. Okay. So if we see, I'll try to draw the diagram. So we have the mesobronchus, okay, and we have the abdominal air sac over here, okay, and the mesobronchus, it gives off the secondary bronchi, isn't it? The secondary bronchi. These branch and rebranch and further branch together to form the parabronchi, right? So you can see here the branch. Okay, so this further branches, and oh, sorry. Not easy to draw with this one. Yeah, okay, somewhat like this, right? Okay, it is branching. Okay, it has branched over here. It has given off a branch over here. Again, from it continues giving off a branch like this. Okay, then what happens? It joins over here. Okay, so this is just like a loop, isn't it? The lateral, what you call the parabronchi, it forms a loop-like structure when it gives off the air, tubules, right? Or what you call as the air capillaries, thin wall tubules or the air capillaries. Okay, so then you can see that this one this rebranching, and there is yet another branch coming off from here. Okay, actually from the air sac. Okay, this is the abdominal air sac. Okay, it joins with the secondary bronchi. You can see here. Okay, so this branch which arises from the air sac, this is known as recurrent. Okay, this is known as a recurrent. So if we repeat, we can see that openings of the bronchi, already the air sacs are opened into the bronchus by way of opening, which is referred as the ostium. Okay, each of the air sacs do have ostial opening. So here this is the ostium, right? Okay, and except for the cervical air sac, all the air sacs, they rejoin the bronchi through recurrent bronchi, or it is referred as sacobronchi. Air sacs, they are paired in origin, but in pigeon, the two interclavicular air sacs, here, just leave. This is the interclavicular air sac. Okay, so all the air sacs are paired in nature, but in the case of interclavicular air sac, what has happened? There is only one to be visible. But what happened is actually there were two interclavicular air sacs, but it got fused during the early stages of development. Okay, and thus there are 9 air sacs. Okay, you can see here a pair of abdominal air sac, a pair of posterior thoracic air sac, anterior thoracic air sac, the cervical air sac, interclavicular air sac. Okay. Apart from that, there is clavicular air sac and humeral air sac. Okay. So the detail of the air sacs we will be dealing it in the coming presentation. So what we have seen is there are 9 major air sacs. So that doesn't include clavicular and humeral. So when we list it, we can see there is interclavicular, a single one, 2 cervical, 2 anterior thoracic, 2 posterior thoracic, and abdominal air sac. Okay, 2. Fine. So these are the different air sacs. right? Fine. We'll see it in the detail later.